What if the greatest proof of love wasn't in promises, but in the courage to defy everything that seemed impossible? This is the story of Alexander Grant, a billionaire heir trapped by the rules of the elite, and Bella Thompson, a humble young woman who never imagined she could capture the heart of a man like him. Two worlds so different that they should never have collided. But when they did, they revealed the power of a feeling strong enough to change destinies. Before diving into this tale filled with passion, sacrifice, and twists that will keep you hooked from beginning to end, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell to follow every detail of this journey, and share in the comments. Where are you watching this story from? I want to feel how far this story of love can reach. Alex Grant had grown up hearing that love was a luxury only the naive could afford. To him, the world was made of contracts, alliances, and million-dollar deals. His father, Charles, would always repeat that marriage was above all an investment, and Alex, even in silence, accepted this idea as if it were an absolute truth. After all, who would dare to challenge a man who had built an empire from scratch? The plan was simple: to find a wife who would bring status, power, and preferably a surname that shone as brightly as the Grant International Hotel's brand. On the surface, it seemed like a brilliant move, an infallible strategy to keep the empire growing. But plans that appear too perfect often hide invisible cracks, the kind that only reveal themselves when pressure rises. Alex, with his impeccable suits and rehearsed speeches, looked every bit the ideal heir. He mastered the art of carrying himself in public, of smiling at the right time and saying only what was necessary. Yet beneath that polished surface, something didn't quite fit. It was as if he were living out a script written by others, playing a role that didn't truly belong to him. Charles saw Olivia Davenport as the perfect candidate. Beautiful, sophisticated, wealthy. A marriage that would unite not just two people, but two empires. To Charles, feelings were nothing more than distractions, weaknesses that could jeopardize serious business. He firmly believed that strategic alliances were worth far more than any fleeting emotion. Alex tried to believe it too, or at least pretended to. Deep inside, though, his conviction was no longer as solid as it once had been. With every social gathering, surrounded by trained smiles and artificial toasts, a part of him wondered if this was really the future he desired. But in the world of the Grants, doubts had no room to grow. The pressure was constant, like an invisible chain tying him to a predetermined fate. Heirs of great families learn early on that their personal lives are nothing more than an extension of the business. And in that context, marriage was nothing but a contract with implicit clauses where love was never mentioned. But the human heart rarely allows itself to be molded by external expectations. Somewhere within him, Alex carried a silent unease, a calling he had yet to name. It was like a muffled melody, waiting for the right moment to echo louder than all the voices of power around him. Charles believed he was protecting his son, preparing him for greatness. But without realizing it, he was also stealing away the chance for him to simply be a man. The greatness he so exalted came with a burden too heavy, where personal choices were smothered in the name of reputation and expansion. What no one expected was that this perfect plan was about to collapse. All it would take was one small mishap, one unexpected encounter to put every certainty of the Grant family to the test. And when chance steps in, even the strongest foundations can crack without warning. On the night of the grand opening of the new Grant Grand Hotel in New York, the atmosphere was pure opulence. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, reflecting on polished marble and sparkling glasses. Guests wore lavish gowns and tailored suits, while photographers fought for the perfect angle. The air carried the weight of expectation for an unforgettable event, carefully crafted to showcase the Grant family's power. Yet, behind all the glamour, life has a way of playing tricks. While the elite focused on speeches and toasts, the backstage buzzed with staff working tirelessly to keep everything flawless. Among them was Isabella Bella Thompson, walking hurriedly with cleaning supplies. Her green uniform clashed against the brilliance of diamonds and silk, a reminder that not everyone there belonged to the celebration. Then the improbable occurred. Rushing past, Bella bumped into a waiter carrying a tray full of crystal glasses. The crash was immediate. The shattering sound echoed through the lobby, silencing the background music and freezing every gaze. In seconds, all eyes turned to the floor where shards sparkled like scattered stars. Embarrassed, Bella knelt down, frantically trying to gather the broken pieces with her hands. Her face flushed, her lips trembled, and the weight of humiliation felt heavier than any burden she had carried before. To the guests, it was just an accident. To her, it was proof she didn't belong in a world that rejected her presence. Her racing heart betrayed her fear of losing her job. But then something unexpected happened. Among the many judgmental stares, a distinguished man knelt beside her. Alexander Grant, the heir of the evening, surprised everyone by holding Bella's hand before she could cut herself. A simple gesture, yet full of humanity, stood in stark contrast to his usual distant demeanor. It shocked everyone. A billionaire crouching on the floor next to a maid. The contact lasted only seconds, but it was enough to fracture Alex's so-called perfect plan. The touch of Bella's hand seemed to convey more than gratitude. There was something genuine there, impossible to disguise. While she trembled with shame, his eyes searched for meaning in the moment. In that silent exchange, a spark ignited, something no contract could define. The scene unsettled the crowd. Whispers rippled across the hall, some in disbelief, others merely intrigued. His father, Charles, watched from afar, unable to hide his disapproval. Meanwhile, Olivia Davenport, positioned strategically in the corner, clenched her glass with a rigid grip, swallowing her fury behind a flawless smile. After all, the unexpected rarely pleases those who have mapped out the future so meticulously. Bella tried to rise quickly, stumbling through rushed apologies. But Alex held her gently yet firmly, helping her stand. The embarrassment was undeniable, but his gesture made it clear that something had shifted. The heir, known for never concerning himself with strangers, had just broken his own unspoken rules before a stunned audience. And though Bella wished she could vanish, the image of that moment would forever be etched in her memory. What seemed like a trivial accident carried the force of destiny's unpredictability. Her heart raced without reason, while Alex, silent, realized that perhaps not all plans could withstand the power of an unforeseen glance. After that night, Alex found it impossible to keep Bella out of his thoughts. The sound of the shattering glasses had become nothing more than a detail compared to the intensity of her gaze. While he moved between business meetings and gala dinners, he caught himself remembering the simplicity of that moment. And the more he tried to convince himself it had only been an accident, the more he felt something greater had begun. On the other side, Bella fought against the insistent memory of that encounter. To her, Alex was nothing more than an overly polished manager with an unexpectedly human attitude. But whenever she closed her eyes, the image of that man kneeling beside her came back with force. It was as if the gesture had revealed a crack in the wall that separated the rich from the poor. Meanwhile, the wealthy heiresses paraded through Alex's life. Olivia Davenport, always flawless, appeared in expensive dresses with rehearsed smiles. Other socialites and heiresses also made sure to be noticed, each one trying to secure a place in the heir's future. What they all had in common was a manufactured perfection, a shine that seemed more like artifice than truth. For Alex, however, that parade grew increasingly dull. The polished charm of the elite felt like a repetitive play, a performance that no longer reached him. In contrast, Bella's flushed face as she apologized echoed with authenticity, something impossible to imitate. It was as if he had found in her vulnerability a strength he had never seen in other women. Bella, on her side, tried to convince herself she was only fooling herself. She replayed the details, the impeccable suit, the firm tone of his voice, the way he helped her up. There was no denying Alex belonged to another universe, untouchable and distant, and yet, her heart insisted on beating differently whenever she thought of him. The difference between their two worlds was stark. He lived surrounded by marble columns, refined dinners, and million-dollar decisions. She lived among cleaning buckets, worn uniforms, and worries about her sick mother. Fate seemed determined to remind them they were opposites, like parallel lines never meant to meet. And yet, the memory persisted. Alex, at every event, noticed how the falseness of the elite weighed on his shoulders. Bella, in the silence of the small room she shared with her mother, thought about how that brief encounter could have changed so much. Two distant universes united by a fleeting moment worth more than all the wealth accumulated. Charles, attentive to his son's movements, quietly reinforced Alex's encounters with Olivia and other women of interest. For him, there was no room for distractions or uncertain feelings. The heir needed to fulfill his duty, and any deviation could jeopardize business. Little did he know that, behind Alex's composed face, a conflict was already beginning to grow, and Bella, without even realizing it, already carried the weight of that conflict. Each time she walked through the hotel corridors, she remembered Alex's gaze. Her mind tried to erase it, but her heart stubbornly clung to that memory. Two opposite worlds destined to repel one another, but somehow, mysteriously, already beginning to be drawn together. Alex began to find discreet ways to cross paths with Bella in the hotel's back corridors. He didn't want to draw attention, much less raise suspicions from his father or his business associates. So he took advantage of every opportunity: an empty hallway, a pause between meetings, even an elevator that stopped on the service floor. It was as if each encounter was a silent rebellion against the world around him. Bella, at first, was wary. She was used to seeing wealthy people treat staff as invisible, but Alex seemed different. He didn't mind listening to her words nor taking the time for a simple conversation. That unexpected attention stirred something within her, though it also sparked fear. After all, being seen beside someone so far above her reality could come at a high price. In those brief conversations, Alex discovered things no one from the elite had ever asked about. Bella spoke of her mother, Emily, who struggled with illness and depended on her care. She also shared her dream of studying interior design, a goal that seemed distant in the face of her current responsibilities. Each word revealed a depth that contrasted with the superficialities of his social circle. Alex, accustomed to discussions of business, profits, and strategies, was astonished. Bella spoke of colors, spaces, and environments with a sparkle in her eyes, as if the world could be redesigned through imagination. It was a genuine enthusiasm, rare among the people surrounding him. He found himself admiring not only what she said, but the way she believed in what she spoke. For Bella, those conversations were an unexpected relief. After exhausting days spent with cleaning products and demanding guests, having someone truly listen felt like a luxury greater than any jewel. Alex didn't treat her words as trivial. On the contrary, he valued every detail. It was strange, yet comforting. As if for a few minutes the weight of reality grew lighter. The time they shared, though brief, wove an invisible bond. Small gestures like secret smiles or excuses to prolong a dialogue showed that something was quietly growing. The world around them continued with its constant noise, but for them, each meeting was a precious pause, a breath amidst the chaos. Behind the scenes, Alex began to notice the contrast even more sharply. While executives discussed million-dollar investments in glittering halls, Bella scrubbed silent corridors with the same dedication. That duality made him reflect: who truly sustained the shine of the elite? Perhaps it was precisely those who never received applause. With each new conversation, Alex admired Bella's strength and authenticity more. She didn't complain about life, though she had every reason to. She spoke with hope even while carrying heavy responsibilities. That resilience drew him more than any gala dress, more than any inherited title. It was a beauty that came from within, and he could not ignore it. And so, through hidden dialogues and unexpected encounters, the bond between them grew in silence. The risk of being discovered lingered in the air, but it seemed insufficient to stop their closeness. Each exchanged word was like a discreet flame, burning brighter with time. And within Alex's heart, the certainty that he was straying further from his father's plan began to take shape. Alex feared that Bella would discover his true identity. His concern was not only the risk of being rejected, but also the fear of losing the naturalness he had found in their encounters. So he decided to take on a disguise. He introduced himself as a simple event manager for the hotel chain. The choice seemed risky, but to him, it was the only way to stay close to her without raising barriers. Bella accepted the story without suspicion. Alex's attentive behavior fit well with the role of someone working behind the scenes. He seemed ordinary, someone she could talk to without fear or embarrassment. For the first time, she felt relaxed in his presence, free from the sense that they belonged to different worlds. The disguise opened the door to an unexpected closeness. For Alex, the experience was almost liberating. Without the weight of his surname, he could act as an ordinary man, free from protocols or family expectations. It felt like breathing fresh air after years of living in controlled environments. Through Bella's simplicity, he found himself discovering new ways of looking at life. Each conversation became more natural. He no longer spoke about million-dollar deals, but about daily experiences, about small observations of hotel life. Bella, in turn, shared details of her routine, laughing at situations only those in the back corridors would understand. Through laughter and confidences, the barrier of social difference seemed to fade. The disguise, however, carried a silent burden. Alex knew he was building a bond on a half-truth. The dilemma grew heavier each day. On one side, the chance to live something real. On the other, the risk of everything collapsing once the truth came out. It was a fine line between freedom and betrayal. Bella, unaware of the secret he kept, began to trust him. She felt safe beside a man who didn't flaunt power but offered genuine attention. That trust blossomed in lingering glances, in shared smiles in the middle of a corridor, in silences that spoke louder than words. Something was growing, even if forbidden. Meanwhile, in the luxurious halls, Alex continued to play the role of the flawless heir. In front of his father and the elite, he maintained the expected posture, carefully hiding the parallel life he was building. It was like living two existences, the official one, filled with wealth and conventions, and the secret one, made of simple conversations with a young woman who could never imagine his true status. With each meeting with Bella, Alex sank deeper into his disguise. He realized that what he desired most was not to maintain appearances but to be seen as ordinary. Paradoxically, lying about who he was became the only way to reveal his true self. That contradiction haunted him, feeding both his enchantment and his guilt. And though Bella didn't know it, that lie was destined to have consequences. For the more genuine their connection became, the greater the impact of the revelation would be. Yet in that moment, the disguise worked as a shelter, allowing them to live the illusion of belonging to the same world, even if only for a little while. That night, an unexpected problem arose in one of the hotel wings. An electrical failure had left part of the floor in darkness, putting the prestige of the grand opening at risk. Staff rushed back and forth, but it was Alex who ended up joining Bella to resolve the situation. There, far from the eyes of the elite, the two worked side by side, as if they were part of the same team. Bella held a flashlight illuminating the narrow service passages, while Alex helped reposition cables and organize the space. The difference in status disappeared in the simplicity of the moment. He didn't seem like a billionaire heir, but rather a man willing to help. That contrast only strengthened the sense of closeness already growing between them. Between nervous laughter and small mistakes, the atmosphere became lighter. Alex joked about his inexperience with practical tasks, pulling a spontaneous laugh from Bella. That laugh echoed through the silent corridor like an unexpected melody, breaking the tension. For the first time, she allowed herself to see him without reservations, almost forgetting he was only a manager. When they finally stabilized the problem, a shared relief washed over them. Alex, with his loosened tie and wrinkled shirt, looked nothing like the flawless man he usually was. Bella, her face flushed from the effort, radiated authenticity. It was in this contrast that their bond deepened, turning silence into something heavy with meaning. Lingering glances began to speak louder than words. Alex leaned closer, hesitant yet driven by a force greater than reason. Bella, unsure how to react, stood still, her heart racing. The air between them grew dense, as if time itself had slowed just for that moment. Then the inevitable happened. Their lips met in a brief, intense, forbidden kiss. There was no gala music, no applause, only their quickened breaths in that hidden corridor. For Alex, it was confirmation of a real feeling. For Bella, a moment that should not exist, but one that etched itself into her heart. Immediately after Bella stepped back in alarm, the memory of their social differences returned like a cold wave, reminding her they lived in opposite worlds. Fear of becoming entangled in the impossible took hold, and her expression revealed the turmoil. Alex, however, showed no regret. His eyes burned with conviction, as if to prove there was truth between them. Bella whispered that this could not happen, trying to distance herself. But Alex gently insisted, telling her it didn't matter who they were or where they came from, because what he felt was real. His words echoed with sincerity, clashing with the falsehood of his assumed identity. The paradox became clear, the truth of his heart against the disguise he still wore. And even in Bella's resistance, something had changed forever. The kiss, though brief, had opened a door that could never be shut. Their bond had crossed into forbidden territory, and neither heart could pretend indifference anymore. Destiny was beginning to draw itself more strongly, setting the stage for the conflict yet to come. Alex's disguise worked for a while, but the truth rarely stays hidden. One morning, Bella walked into the staff cafeteria and found a magazine left on the table. On the cover, in bold letters, was the photo of Alexander Grant, heir to Grant International Hotels, smiling in front of cameras. The shock was immediate. He was the same man who claimed to be just a manager. Bella's heart raced. Her eyes scanned the article, which highlighted the family's fortune, expansion plans, and Charles Grant's pressure for his son to marry Olivia Davenport. Every word struck her like a silent dagger. The conversations, the gestures, the glances, all of it now seemed like a carefully crafted lie. That same day, Alex found her in one of the service corridors, ready for another secret conversation. But this time Bella's gaze was neither warm nor welcoming. She stared at him coldly, holding the magazine in her hands. Without a single word, he understood his secret had been uncovered. Bella accused him of playing with her feelings, of turning her life into a game. Her voice trembled with pain, not anger, because the wound cut deeper than rage. For her, trust was a rare treasure, and Alex had just destroyed it. With each word she spoke, the chasm between them widened. Alex tried to explain, insisting that the disguise was never meant to deceive her, but to give him the chance to be seen as an ordinary man. He said he wanted to be judged for who he was, not the surname he carried. Yet his words, though sincere, felt fragile against the weight of Bella's disappointment. The memories of their forbidden kiss, their intimate conversations, and their lingering glances lost their glow. To Bella, everything was now tainted by the lie. The gesture that once seemed like courage now reeked of manipulation. The image of him kneeling to help her in the hotel lobby twisted, becoming a bitter memory. Alex, desperate, tried to make her believe. His voice grew more intense, his hands gesturing wildly, but Bella remained rigid. It was as if each plea only deepened the distance between them. Her silence, more than words, declared the rupture. When she finally turned her back on him, Bella carried more than sorrow. In her eyes was a mix of pain and determination. She would not allow her heart to make her fragile again. Alex, frozen in the corridor, was left alone with the weight of his mistake, realizing he had lost far more than he could bear. In that moment, their story seemed to end. The lie that once acted as shelter had become a wall. What began as complicity was now shattered by truth. Yet even in separation, something invisible remained, a bond that even pain could not erase, and one that would still play a decisive role in their fate. The revelation had shaken Alex deeply, but there was no time to recover. Right after his breakup with Bella, he was summoned to his father's office. The luxurious room, with mahogany furniture and walls adorned with classical paintings, felt even more suffocating. Charles Grant waited, imposing, with a gaze that allowed no weakness. Charles spoke without hesitation. It was time to move forward with the engagement to Olivia Davenport. For him, there was no room for doubts or sentimental distractions. The marriage represented expansion, merging fortunes, strengthening the empire. Every word sounded like a command, not a suggestion. Alex, seated before him, felt trapped in a destiny already written. The heir tried to argue, but his voice seemed fragile against Charles's firmness. His father saw the relationship with Bella as a childish mistake, a threat to the family's reputation. He repeated that strategic alliances were what sustained empires. Love, he said, was fleeting, business eternal. The phrase struck like a verdict. Olivia, always attentive, took advantage of the moment to move closer. With charm and confidence, she attended dinners and social gatherings alongside the Grant family, as though she were already part of it. Her presence was calculated, always elegant, always impeccable. To Charles, she was the ideal daughter-in-law. To Alex, the living reminder of everything he did not want. Meanwhile, Alex sank into silence. The constant pressure robbed him of appetite, sleep, and even concentration on business. His conversations with Henry Collins, his childhood friend and the family's lawyer, grew more frequent. Henry warned him about the risks of defying his father, reminding him of the financial and social consequences. But none of that erased the emptiness. Alex found himself surrounded by luxury, yet imprisoned in a life he had not chosen. The false smiles at events, the automatic applause, everything echoed like an endless performance. Bella's absence weighed on him constantly, a reminder of what he had lost. Charles, on the other hand, did not relent. He met with investors, arranged gatherings, and pressed Alex to publicly commit to Olivia. To him, his son's hesitation was nothing but weakness, something that needed to be corrected with discipline. An heir, he said, had no right to think like an ordinary man. Alex tried to mask his anguish, but his expression betrayed him. Olivia noticed, and it only made her more determined. Behind the scenes, she fed her own ambition, seeing in Alex's discomfort an opportunity to control him even more. What was suffering to him was strategy to her. And so, the weight of family and business fell upon Alex like an invisible chain. Torn between obedience and freedom, between duty and love, he walked ever closer to an inner abyss. Charles's plan seemed to triumph, but Bella's flame still burned quietly within him, resisting the crushing pressure. Olivia, determined to eliminate any threat to her plan of winning Alex, began digging into Bella's life. For her, it wasn't enough to be chosen. She needed to destroy the rival. Using her connections in the elite world, she uncovered details about the young woman's humble origins. It was exactly what she needed to turn Bella into a target of public humiliation. The perfect opportunity came during a lavish party hosted by one of New York's most powerful families. The ballroom, filled with crystal chandeliers and shimmering gowns, was the ideal stage to expose weaknesses. Olivia, with her calculated smile and flawless gown, prepared her strike with the precision of a hunter ready to bring down her prey. Bella, invited by chance through hotel colleagues who needed extra staff, had no idea what awaited her. Wearing her modest uniform, she was assigned to help behind the scenes, serving glasses and arranging details. She was there merely as staff, invisible to the eyes of the elite, but Olivia planned to make her visible in the worst possible way. At one point in the evening, Olivia interrupted a conversation and, with a firm voice, drew everyone's attention. With false courtesy, she presented Bella before the crowd, exposing her as a hotel maid and the daughter of a sick widow. The words, though disguised as kindness, dripped with venom. The entire ballroom fell silent, waiting for the final blow. Bella froze. The flush in her cheeks betrayed the shame and pain of being exposed under so many judging eyes. She felt the floor vanish beneath her feet as faint laughter echoed in the background. The contrast between her simplicity and the artificial glitter of the guests became a cruel spectacle. Alex, upon realizing what was happening, reacted with outrage. He rushed forward to defend Bella, but the humiliation was already done. Olivia's words lingered like merciless echoes on the ballroom walls. The silence of the onlookers only reinforced Bella's loneliness, as she understood for the first time just how much she did not belong in that world. Charles, watching from a distance, did not intervene. His gaze was cold, as though confirming the lesson he wanted his son to learn. To him, the episode was proof that Bella could never be part of the Grant family. Olivia, meanwhile, wore the satisfied smile of someone who believed she had won the battle. Bella, holding back tears, lowered her eyes and quickly left the ballroom. Each step was a mixture of shame and despair, as if she needed to escape not only the people but also a dream that was shattering before her. In that moment, her only wish was to disappear. The betrayal, orchestrated to perfection, seemed to achieve its purpose. Olivia got what she wanted: to push Bella away from Alex and reinforce her position at his side. Yet beneath the surface, the episode did not erase true feeling. On the contrary, it turned pain into a spark, one that would return with greater force in the steps yet to come. Bella left the party with hurried steps, her eyes brimming with restrained tears. The world that for a moment had seemed to offer her hope now revealed itself as cruel and unforgiving. Every memory of Alex hurt even more, for it was now tied to public shame. The silence of New York streets contrasted with the noise echoing inside her. When she arrived home, she found her mother, Emily, who immediately sensed the weight in her daughter's gaze. Bella tried to hide it, but the tears finally broke free. Emily, fragile, held her hand, offering silent comfort. Even in sickness, she carried a strength that supported Bella through chaos. The next morning, Bella made a decision. She resigned from the hotel, leaving behind not only her job but also the memories that had become unbearable. The green uniform she had once worn with dignity now felt like a symbol of humiliation. Returning it felt like closing a painful chapter. Alex, meanwhile, sank into despair. After the party, he had watched Bella vanish before his eyes, powerless to stop her. Back in his hotel suite, surrounded by luxury, he felt more trapped than ever. The golden walls and expensive furniture offered no comfort, only reminders of the gilded prison he lived in. For him, wealth no longer meant anything. Without Bella, business, alliances, and inheritance all seemed worthless. His life had become a meaningless routine, an empty theater in which he no longer wished to play a role. For the first time, Alex grasped the true weight of loneliness. While Bella planned to leave New York, Alex struggled to find the strength to act. But family pressure, Olivia's watchful eyes, and his father's looming shadow suffocated him. He felt that every step toward duty pulled him further away from the love that could save him. It was like walking a tightrope ready to collapse. As Bella packed her few belongings, she looked out the window with a mix of sadness and determination. New York no longer held anything for her but pain. The thought of starting over in another city was frightening yet necessary. She knew she had to move forward, even if it meant abandoning what her heart longed for. Deep down, both were broken. Bella by shame and disappointment, Alex by the invisible prison keeping him from her. Two different worlds divided by pride, lies, and pressure, yet connected by the pain of the same absence. Each in their own way had reached rock bottom. And it was at this breaking point, when everything seemed lost, that the story began to prepare the ground for a turning point. For often it is in the darkest moment that the spark of transformation appears, still unseen, but ready to change everything. The day of Alex and Olivia's engagement arrived. The ballroom was dazzling, decorated with rare flowers, crystal chandeliers, and impeccably set tables. New York's elite gathered, dressed in their finest attire, awaiting the announcement that would unite two of the city's most powerful families. For many, it was just another social spectacle. For Alex, it was a prison. Olivia paraded through the hall as though she were the hostess, with a flawless smile and a glittering gown. Her eyes, however, did not shine with love, but with triumph. For her, that night meant conquest, power, and status. Every step reinforced her certainty that she was about to defeat her invisible rival. Bella, Charles Grant among the guests, watched everything with satisfaction. He saw in the event the confirmation of his plans, the strengthening of his empire. To him, Alex was nothing more than a piece on the board, and the engagement was a calculated move toward business expansion. Nothing seemed capable of interrupting the show, but Alex was far from celebrating. The impeccable suit could not hide the anguish gnawing at him inside. Every raised glass, every rehearsed smile, every spoken word felt hollow. In his mind, there was only Bella, her simplicity, her strength, their stolen kiss. Without her, the brilliance of the party turned into darkness. When the master of ceremonies announced the couple's entrance, Alex felt his heart tighten. Olivia gripped his hand firmly as if she already owned his life. But instead of pride, he felt repulsion. And in that instant, the decision became inevitable. He could not go through with the farce. Before all eyes, Alex stopped the event. He released Olivia's hand and, with a steady voice, declared he would not sacrifice his happiness for convenience. Silence fell over the hall. Guests exchanged incredulous glances. Charles rose in fury and Olivia froze, unable to believe what she was hearing. Alex's words thundered through the room. He would rather give up his inheritance and the family business than live without love. The gesture, unthinkable to the elite, turned the ballroom into a shockwave. The heir everyone thought was controlled had rebelled against his father and society itself. Without waiting another second, Alex left the hall with firm steps. The sound of confused and outraged voices faded behind him. For the first time, he felt free, even if it meant losing everything. His path now led to only one destination: Bella. As he ran through the streets of New York, his heart racing, the scene carried an air of urgency. He didn't know if he was already too late, but he had to try. For the moment had come to prove that above inheritance, wealth, or prestige, love was his only truth. At the New York bus terminal, Bella waited for the bus that would take her far away. The suitcase beside her seemed heavier than it truly was, carrying not only clothes but also memories and pain. Her aching heart reflected the uncertainty of a future that once again demanded courage. The sound of departures echoed like a farewell to the life she had known. Meanwhile, Alex crossed the streets with urgency. His suit, already disheveled from his rush, contrasted with the intensity in his eyes. Every step was fueled by the fear of arriving too late. The city, glowing with nightlights, seemed to bear silent witness to his race against time. Bella, sitting on the station bench, stared fixedly at her suitcase. Inside, she wrestled with the desire to stay and the necessity to leave. Her tired face showed not only sadness but strength. Each steady breath was an effort to maintain control, even as everything around her screamed the opposite. Suddenly, Alex entered the terminal. Breathless, his eyes scanned the space until they found her. When he finally saw Bella, he froze as if the world had slowed down. The scene unfolded in slow motion. Bella about to stand, suitcase in hand, and Alex kneeling before her. Amid the commotion of the station, Alex spoke with a voice both firm and filled with emotion. He declared his love without masks, without inheritance, without business. He said he was willing to lose everything, fortune, family, and power, just to be by her side. His words were more than promises. They were a total surrender. Bella, tears brimming, hesitated. The weight of betrayal still lingered, but the sincerity in his eyes broke down her walls. For the first time, she no longer saw the billionaire heir, but the man she had truly chosen to love. The silence between them was filled only by the sound of a departing bus. Finally, Bella let the suitcase slip from her hand to the ground. The simple gesture carried an immense decision, choosing love over fear. She fell into Alex's arms, and the embrace was so intense it seemed to seal a new life. Amid tears, they found each other again in a kiss that bound them together. The terminal, once ordinary, transformed into a stage of redemption. Passengers stopped to watch, some smiling, others moved. True love, displayed so openly in a bus station, seemed to defy all logic. The contrast between the simplicity of the place and the grandeur of the moment made the scene unforgettable. And as the imaginary camera captured the slow motion of Bella's suitcase falling, the final words appeared on the screen. Sometimes the richest love is found in the simplest hearts. The cycle closed, yet the story remained alive with emotion, a timeless reminder that true love is always the greatest wealth. Alex defied everything that seemed unbreakable. His father's will, the pressures of the elite, the weight of a name that carried empires on its shoulders. Bella, with her quiet strength, showed that even the simplest hearts can spark transformations no fortune could ever buy. Their encounter at the bus station was not just the reunion of lovers, but living proof that the courage to love speaks louder than any contract or convention. The suitcase falling to the ground, the intense embrace, the kiss before the crowd. Every detail became a symbol of something greater. It was there, in the most unlikely of places, that true wealth revealed itself. Two hearts choosing to walk together, even when the world around them said otherwise. No luxury, no inheritance, only love, raw and pure, more powerful than any fortune. And you, having witnessed every detail of this story, would you like to see what comes next? Will Alex and Bella be able to sustain this love in the face of new challenges? Or will the ghosts of the past continue to haunt them? Comment below if you want a part 2 of this tale. And don't forget, subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell to keep following stories as intense and passionate as this one. Because when it comes to love, the next chapter can always surprise you.